Hello there and welcome to People and Politics. You're still watching KBC Channel 1 here and the show is Good Morning Kenya. Let's just talk about politics. As always, on Tuesday we delve into matters that affect you and we just need to dissect them so that we can understand more on what they mean and what they portend for you as a Kenyan as well as a citizen, because you have all the right to have that information. Okay, so with me in studio, I have got Wakili Ken Amondi, who is joining us in studio. Wakili, thank you so much for joining us once again.
Pleasure.
And we have got Daniel Orogo, who is a political analyst here in studio. Daniel, karibu.
Good morning.
Good morning. You disappeared last weekend. You were asking yourself.
So many things happening in this country. Yeah, sometimes we find our way. Yeah. Absolutely.
So let's just get into where we should start. It's political season, gentlemen. And by the way, no offense, it's men affair today. So there's no offense. We just talk about what happens now currently. The political season we can never talk about politics enough. We love to talk about it and discuss what's happening in the country. Mt.Kenya is shaking, is continue to grow. Daniel?
Yeah, I think the issue about that voting area and had been quite interesting, and I think we've been deliberating about Mt.Kenya in this panel for some time.
Right.
But I think it's not just being wished away because of the significance that it plays, especially in, always deciding on how the country goes. So I think the stakes are high in the sense that some of the issues that they are talking about right now are quite issues that I see had been placed at some political discourses before. This is an area that is very interesting, that for the first time there is no a sprouting potential presidential candidate. I mean, there are, but who is capable of playing the figure at the national level to rally the community? So I think in the absence of that, the community and that constituency of voters are finding it difficult, especially who would then guarantee and safeguard their interest as they nurture somebody who will, definitely have gravitas to vie and rally the community together. I hear the issues that the region is talking about, and they're very legitimate. I mean, each and every constituency in this country, each and every region would want to have a discussion and a discourse. What is the interest of our community when it regards to election? The 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. Who safeguard our future political interest? Who safeguard our business interest and ventures? Who is he that would, make sure that revenues, trickle down to the people that it deserves? So I think the region is finding itself in a way that some of their requests or some of their hopes that were laid in BBI, and the BBI that is now going through political landmines and legal landmines, right now they are just trying to find out where would the interest lie.
Because I would assume that Mt.Kenya is finding itself in a very tricky situation right now, because they don't have a definite front runner in the next general election. So perhaps the whole of these demands are because they know pretty well that they don't have somebody who's going to run for that political seat, the presidency. So perhaps whoever is going to run and woo them to go on their side must adhere to their demands. Wakili, is that the point at this particular point in time?
Yeah, of course, we have to bear in mind that, like you always said in this show, first we are talking of politics. And politics is about numbers, and it goes without saying that given the significant numbers within the Mt.Kenya region, we are talking of around 20% or thereabout of the Kenyan voting bloc. So that's a region that cannot be wished away. Of course, secondly, we are also talking of the economic might of the region. You cannot also wish that away. So that when you combine that, the question of the numbers and the question of the economic, the economic bloc, then from a political perspective, that is a very huge base which must be considered. Of course, there's also the question of the fact that this may end up being the first time maybe from independence that we are finding the region not presenting a formidable or a serious presidential candidate in a presidential election. That is from the multi-party time in 1992. So that then the next question would be that to whichever candidate that shall marshal this regional bloc, what is it that you have for us? And of course, it therefore behoves the leadership to then, in the course of negotiations, come up with what is it that serves best the interest of our people. And we are aware that one of the issues that has always kept cropping up amongst the leadership is the question of one person, one vote, which of course was properly addressed within the context of the the BBI document, and we find the leadership that is meeting right now, putting this as one of the core demands that they would really want to, be placed on the table in their negotiations with whichever candidate that they shall support. Of course, there is also the question of who is it that, the mountain shall revolve around? Who is that emergent leader that would take over from President Uhuru Kenyatta? And quite a number of names, of course, are cropping up. We have got the former governors. We have got the likes of the Iron Lady Martha Karua.
Actually, who's now been fronted as the spokesperson.
And that is really key. Bear in mind that in 2000, and I think it was 2013, when the late Minister Michuki came out clear that you want to negotiate with Mt.Kenya, you have to go through Uhuru Kenyatta, and that is all. That's what became of it. We don't know if that will be the position right now, or courtesy of the enthronement of Martha Karua. We must also take note that there are other candidates also who initially were not that politically motivated. The likes of Jimmy Wanjigi, whose moves cannot be wished away, and who has made his forays throughout the country. Last week we saw him in Luoland, and the nature of reception and that he got from the populace in the ground, who got to feel that in this person we see some element of leadership. So that I think we are headed for interesting times.
Okay, there is this story which was done yesterday, and we had these leaders. We have got Martha Karua and the likes of the Kabogos and all that. Let's just get that story and hear what they had today after that meeting they had yesterday.
A group of leaders from the Mount Kenya region have softened their demands for 40% share in the next government, claiming they are ready to engage like-minded leaders with offers as they seek winning coalition partners. During a forum that brought together different factions, Kenya Party leader Martha Karua was appointed their spokesman with a mandate to engage other like-minded leaders for a winning formula.
This forum has today unanimously chosen the Honorable Martha Karua to be our official convener and our spokesperson.
The move coming after Gatondo South Member of Parliament had outlined a number of demands, including the post of a deputy president and 40% seats in the government for the region.
We have seen in the history of our country that monolithic parties become oppressive. The other issue is security of the person and property. And these, like the issue of democracy and multipartyism, are issues that actually apply to the entire country, but as a region we have flagged them off as our priority issues. The third issue is the issue of representation. We want equity in representation. The fourth issue is equity in sharing of resources and development. And these are issues that apply to the rest of Kenyans.
Nobody should stop any community of interest to come together, see together, eat together, and articulate their issues. So that's all what we are discussing.
The interests of the mountain are paramount to ourselves as we think as Kenyans.
But another group in Kiambu says time for campaigns is not yet and wants leaders to cease from preaching politics of hate against the Jubilee Party.
Jubilee iko na Jubilee Kiambu iko timamu.
Of abusing others, giving false information because you want to join another party. We restrain that as a party.
Meanwhile, Kathiani Member of Parliament Robert Mbui has come out in support of bishops and churches over the recent move to bar politicians from the pulpit.
Okay, so that's what happened. The caucus already have chosen Martha Karua as the official spokesperson. The demands, some of them are equity in representation, according to Martha Karua, equity, revenue sharing, and political party pluralism. Some of these things were outlined in the BBI. Equity in sharing, equity in representation, and revenue sharing. Some of them were outlined in the BBI. And now, just to start with you, Daniel, it seems like Mt.Kenya has made peace with itself that we don't have a candidate. So these are our demands.
The candidature, one of the things that a candidature guarantee a region is safety, is taking care of interest of that region, is de facto in spokesperson and having an interest of that region at heart. So in the absence of that, I think that is why we are seeing this kind of gerrymandering going on around. And like I said, it's a good thing.
It's a good thing. It's
a good thing for each and every region, because you cannot go to a negotiating table like an underdog, political negotiating table like an underdog. And just like Wakili has touched about, there is the significance of this region when it comes to, always making decisions in terms of even sharing the natural cake that we have. But right now, like you said, there's no front runner. So then what is the alternative? So the alternative is to have a strong coalition or a coalition of parties that are purely based on the interest of that region, and that then would become a negotiating chip for each and every meetings that they go. And I like it because, these have been forthcoming, and it seems that they are settling finally in terms of looking at their interest first of all. And whether they are going to have a candidate or whether somebody is going to settle them as a deputy, their deputy. The issue is that now Mt.Kenya has got an issue to have and to present in the political negotiating table. What I am worried about is by the fact that we've had a number of spokespersons in this region, spokespeople, that then now who is who? Justin Muturi was just, I think a few months ago, was installed by the Council of Elders, okay? Then Moses Kuria went out and said he is also the spokesperson a few days after that. And now I have seen him, declaring that now it's Martha Karua.
But according to them, Martha Karua is the spokesperson of that caucus.
Not really caucus, but also I think at its goals, it's now taken care of. Now they're saying this is legitimate. This is what the leaders of Mt.Kenya are fronting as the de facto spokeswoman or a spokesperson for the region. So Victor, I think this is one thing that is interesting in that region. It's good for political discourse, but I am worried if it goes long without them, or settling for a unitary frontier to begin discussing on these issues. The other thing is now on the fate of the issues, because some of these issues were ingrained on the Building Bridges initiative. And therefore it means if there is an opening of a political discussion about them, it is not only that any person they are having a discussion with would just have this discussion in an empty shell. There needs to be a framework, to inculcate some of these demands. Issues about revenue sharing. I mean, these are issues that are constitutional, that the counties will receive, between 15 to 35%. And you see, it's not just something you can have on, and actually, on a negotiating table, on a gentleman's agreement or a gentle people's agreement. There needs to find a structure, that is constitutional, a framework that is legal, to put them in. So I think I am worried because the demands or the request or the interest do not have a general framework, but it seems anybody that region would want to have a conversation with must begin to think how then would they put this interest into a framework that cannot be challenged legally or even politically.
My concern again, Wakili, is that when you have people like Moses Kuria, we have former CS Mongi Kiunjuri and the likes, coming together and saying that today we are going to form a caucus that anybody coming to seek for votes in Mount Kenya must come through us. When you look at these positions, for example, the issue of revenue sharing, the Council of Governors also raised that issue that they wanted it to be taken to Parliament for a debate. Because now the BBI is flopped, so they are going to lose certain amount of money, and this was going to be beneficial to the counties after all. How is it going to happen come 2022? That Mount Kenya doesn't have a front runner, and anybody going to negotiate with them must fulfill all this. Are we not going to have a hard nut to crack for all these front runners in 2022 for them to crack Mount Kenya?
I think on the basis of the last question, that the last issue that you raised, I would say that in respect of Mount Kenya and what has come out of that caucus, and apparently the caucus seems to appreciate leaders from both shades. By those shades, I mean there are some of those who originally gravitated so much around the deputy president and his cause, the likes of Moses Kuria, and then of course you have the former governors and Martha Karua on the other hand, who apparently happened to be in the the faction that was anti-BBI, as it were. Now it seems to raise a clear scenario where it turns out that these leaders inwardly appreciate the fact that it would seem that the president, in pushing across the BBI initiative, which he had as his legacy, part of his legacy project, actually had Mount Kenya interest at heart. And you see that this needs to be looked at in the context of the perception that has developed all along, that it would seem that within the Mt. Kenya region, the BBI project was seen as something which was an anathema in the region, something that was anti-people, because people were so much concerned about, it seemed not to address the economic issues.
So I tend to say that Mount Kenya is somehow not so happy that the BBI flopped entirely.
From what I'm hearing from the caucus, then unless we are saying that, there's a sense in which the leadership are appreciating that, look, in as much as this might be the position in the ground, because there may be a disconnect between what the mwananchi in the ground is saying and what the leadership, who of course are privy to the facts and the data, know as what would be the best interest to the Mount Kenya region. So that it would seem that in the end of the day, they are realizing that, look, there may be a mistake somewhere. This actually ought to be the direction.
Because look at it.
Equally, it could be important to to provide an advice to the region. Some of these, demands might not be tenable, even as we proceed. A few months to the general election. The fate of BBI seems, we may not know how it ends because of the timelines, the elections timelines and all these. There have been presidential candidates who have been having a discussion with Mt.Kenya, and on the issues they have been raising. The Honorable Musalia Mudavadi had been there in that region for some time, and I've met over the weekend, and I've met to discuss, with these issues. Honorable Raila and equally William Ruto has been there, and I think I would when it comes to issues of trying to deal with the economy, it could be important for them to listen to the provision of Uchumi Bora. Listen to what Musalia Mudavadi is pushing in that area, because I think there are issues about revenue and there are issues about economy. I would ask that they would begin to listen and interrogate, what these political leaders have, because even as we proceed, it could be untenable to have these conversations that are not grained in any, legislation as we speak. I think, and secondly, it bequeath the region. Let me say this. It bequeath the region to determine the political future. This is a region that suffers at, many years when we had, only one political party ruling. And Wakili, that, Martha Karua has spelled out clearly that they do not want a monolithic political party, because the region knows very well what happens in the drama of multi-party democracy. One of their candidates suffered in the hands of an autocrat. I mean, Kenneth Matiba and the rest. And they also understand what happens when the country is one-party state. So I think I agree with Mt.Kenya that it is bequeathing in us that you shouldn't. And not only Mt.Kenya, any region right now would be very wary of any candidate who would want to collapse political parties and make this country a one-party de jure state. So I think this is one thing that we need to state here, that we are past that as a country.
In fact, let me just outline. During the proposed BBI, in the BBI constitutional change, the Mt.Kenya was going to have a lion's share in terms of additional constituencies. Kiambu, Nakuru 5, Meru 2, Embu 1, Kirinyaga 1, Muraga 1, and Laikipia 1. And in addition, the BBI had also proposed increased allocation of counties from 15 to 35%, and entrenching the one man, one shilling, one vote. Exactly. And that mantra that had been to be a rallying call for the region. Again, the group which also includes the party, the Service Party leader, that is Mwangi Kiunjuri, and his Chama cha Kazi counterpart Moses Kuria, also vowed to not to fold their parties. So what does this mean? We are going as a party, not as an individual, because this happened during the formation of Jubilee Party, Jubilee Coalition, where so many parties were folded, and some of them, perhaps you can say that some of them are regretting why they folded their parties, right? So, Wakili, Mt.Kenya is somehow feeling the heat. That's why this caucus is now sitting down to iron out the missing link.
Yeah, in fact, on the question of what they are describing as a multiplicity of political parties. Yeah. And of course, I know that's a conversation that stems from the position that is coming out from the UDA, that look, we have to, speak with one voice. There's no question of coalitions. I also want to re-emphasize that in as much as there are certain arguments that has been peddled that look, we need to have one strong party to avoid, regionalism and name it. Like Orogo said at some stage, regionalism is not necessarily bad, right? And we also have to take note that even in other jurisdictions, take example, I normally like the example of Switzerland. One of the most, can I say, stable, actually the most stable democracy in the world, where they have got a system where the so-called cantons are so much strengthened, you know. Cantons have their respective governments, more or less semi-autonomous, and if you look at their history, that is the basis of the stability that Switzerland has all along been known for. And that is something that was so, to some extent, domesticated even in our Constitution 2010, when we brought in the aspect of devolution, so that in a sense we may have these regional governments which are expected to become effective and strong, so that we even forget about the notion of an imperial presidency. In fact, let me say that I always believe that if the mindset of the framers of the Constitution 2010 was actually put in place, then as of now, we would not be having debates about who would be president, because, governors would be doing marvelous works, and people would be comfortable. If you are in Nairobi, then the issue should be who would be the next governor of Nairobi.
The next president.
That would be the issue in, in Kisumu, Kirinyaga, name it, Mutua, but somehow it has not, gotten traction in Kenya. But now to go back to the issue at hand, let me say that the position in respect of political parties is one into which we really have to support the Mt.Kenya region, and I believe also throughout the country. Why? Because it is through a multiplicity of political parties that we have, you have a sense in which you will have different ideas being presented within the general political discourse. Yes. So that is one thing that needs not be compromised.
Okay. Daniel, just, we're going to take a break, but then, why Martha Karua? The Iron Lady. In fact, on the front page, of the Daily Nation, Wakili, it says the
Iron Lady.
The Iron Lady. Why Martha Karua? We saw she was so instrumental during the formation of Kibaki's government. In fact, some people used to refer Martha Karua as the only man
that remained standing
in the Kibaki cabinet. And now she's been quite quiet, and now she's back again. And now she's been made the spokesperson of that caucus. Why Martha Karua? Perhaps you can just answer that question when we come after this break, so that we need to discuss why Honorable Martha Karua, the Iron Lady, is back. Okay, let's take a break. We'll be right back with more as we discuss people and politics. Stick around. Welcome back. So we're just having this conversation here behind the scenes, and it's fun. Okay, it's all fun. Politics doesn't have to be that serious. Okay, so before we went on a break, I asked this question: why Martha Karua? Daniel, go for it.
Because she has once stood with her political party. Ever since there was a breakaway from Kibaki's government, Martha has been consistent in terms of propagating her ideology, speaking her own mind, and standing for what she believes in. The Honorable Martha Karua had served and is so experienced when it comes to political negotiation at crisis times. So I think this is the value the caucuses are placing. One, in terms of seniority, experience, and by the fact that she's also a woman who, has not only run against these whims and tides of political quagmire, but has stood her ground. And I think we were just discussing a while ago that in the offing, on the chaos that were at KICC in 2007, the only person who stood and was really visible, politically visible, to defend PNU government at the controversial 2007 political election was one Martha Wangari Karua. And I think it's impetus, it's a value that the team cleverly thought to place her at a point where she would really negotiate for issues of, of Mount Kenya and Central Kenya. I would also like to add, that if there is a person who really understands, what the region needs when it regards to political democracy and when it regards to advancing of interest that are palatable to the people of Central Kenya, is, Martha. Quite defender of justice, experience in the corridors of justice and law as a magistrate for some time, as a political leader, and as a cabinet secretary, as a cabinet minister by that time. But I think wherever there are merits, we must also say there are demerits. And as you've seen, the headlines have splashed, and they're saying that the return of, an iron lady. But then, Victor, I think there are demerits in this headline. One, because in a political discourse and negotiation, nobody would want to have someone who is seen to be a hardliner. Yeah. And someone who is seen to be non-flexible. And, this would definitely work against it, because one, I think, is the fear that she is an hardliner. Yeah. And secondly, that, she scares by what she says and what she stands for. But perhaps
because of also her legal
I think
background
her legal background, right. And that's why I'm saying her experience by default, places her at a point where she is a value to the caucus, but also she might also be, having some elements that are not really well with the outsider. But more importantly, in the event that Honorable Anne Waiguru is slowly drifting towards the deputy president, then the Mount Kenya caucus is working for an option. It might not be Kirinyaga as well, but the face is similar, that all this region, that we are having someone who is a replacement, to Anne Waiguru. Because Anne had been sometimes, was seen also as sprouting to be, having a very strong grounding.
In fact, sometimes last week she said that she's been receiving several proposals for her to be the running mate.
Of different presidential candidates. So I think this is cleverly crafted to make a statement that, you see, Mount Kenya, even as others might be drifting towards UDA,
we still have options.
Of course, we still have options that are much value and much, can still steer the community forward. So I think this is the reason why Martha is proposed to be the spokesperson of the caucus.
Let me ask the same question to Wakili. Why Martha Karua? She is a legal mind, very strong, very stable. Why Martha Karua?
I think I would look at Martha Karua from two perspectives.
Right.
First, of course, is the fact that we still have people in this nation who believe that, you can have a stand in respect of justice and you don't waver from it, no matter what. I think that is the picture that Martha Karua presents. If you look at his tenure within the cabinet, you would expect, like happens, the ordinary trend in Kenya. Someone gets that sort of an opportunity, and the next thing you hear is obscene wealth. Martha Karua does not seem to be that sort of a person. She is just there for do what is right, and with the belief that over a long period of time, of course, people might, treat it in jest, say whatever they like, reject you in this election here and there. But in the end of the day, there is a sense in which people come to reflect and say, look, there is someone here. I think that is Martha Karua for me. Secondly, in the context of, the Mount Kenya politics, we need to bear in mind that, the true Martha Karua came out in 2007 in respect of defending the PNU government after the controversial election.
But then she was the Gishugu Member of Parliament.
Yes. Right. And there was a sense in which, subsequent to that, because the question then arose, because that then was the second and final term for President Moi Kibaki. So that you know, the setup was already being crafted in terms of succession. And there was a question of the deputy prime minister, for those who can recall.
Yeah.
And of course, there were those who felt the same ought to have been gifted to Martha Karua, but apparently Kibaki chose Uhuru Kenyatta. And I want to believe that then formed the basis of the, you know, the hue and cry and, you know, the fallout that ultimately led to Martha Karua quitting the government. Then. Of course, then came the coronation of Uhuru Kenyatta as, you know, the successor and the spokesperson for the Mt.Kenya region. And from a political perspective, things didn't go on well for Karua in respect of elections 2013, and even finally having to lose, you know, a gubernatorial seat to Anne Waiguru,
current governor, right?
So that in Martha Karua, from the context of Mount Kenya, I see a person who in 2008 had primed herself and positioned herself to be the next kingpin, as it were, but who somehow was sidestepped by the elders. So that, you know, an opportunity has now arisen. We don't know how it will pan out, but let us wait and see.
Did you ever see at any given point that the likes of Moses Kuria, Martha Karua, and the former CS, Mwangi Kunjuru, were going to come together? Because at some point, the discussion was drifting towards either we are going to be individual kind of persons going as a mountain, or they were drifting towards UDA. And now they're somehow starting to appear like they're going to have that kind of solitary agreement that we as a caucus, whoever is now planning to run for that particular seat, should come to us. So they're neutral. Come and negotiate with us. Did you see that happening, for them coming together?
No, of course, no one could have imagined that was possible within, you know, this political discourse right now. But like we say, you know, in politics, there's, you know, a day is a longer time, and you know, anything happened. And I'm saying, elections are some months. There might be things that will surprise us in political scenes. Negotiations, turnarounds that would, you know, leave your mouth agape if you see it in the news. Then you would wonder, because then it's only in convergence of interest. When the interests converge, then I think there is nothing that is difficult, you know, to attain in this political circle. No negotiations is really, you know, difficult for them. But, you know, let me say this, that it would be difficult for now for this caucus already to gravitate towards the DP. Because the DP has been hell-bent, and he said that anybody who would want to join his political camp must break away from any political parties that they have. And yet the caucuses are very clear that for them is a negotiation that is based on political parties and Mount Kenya interest. So then it leaves you know, a room for negotiation with other political leaders, because I think for DP, Ruto and the caucus is a game that is over, because then if they stand by principles, and if the DP insists on his political manifest and believe about, you know, his UDA philosophy, then I think there is a drift in terms of ideologies and in terms of understanding. But again, you mentioned something that was quite interesting, and this is good for us to revisit here. That these leaders, one of the things that Mount Kenya actually had also suffered for, apart from years in the cold, when there was one-party state. The one is also happening in, you know, after 2017. When they noticed that the political blunder they had made is to collapse their political parties and form into one. So even as you see their body language and, you know, their stand is that, you know, that kind of mistake, we will not want to do it again. You know, because
there are no more parties since 2013.
You see, it's a struggle. It's a struggle, because then all the 12 political parties that were collapsed to form Jubilee Party, you know, nobody can run with them even as we speak.
Yeah.
So it is for them to form political parties again. And you've seen Moses Kuria, you know, he formed PEP, and then there was issues with PEP. Now he's formed Chama cha Kazi, and he would not want another mistake, you know, to come and collapse his political parties again. The same to Mwangi Kiunjuri, the same to, you know, all other...
The miseries that faced Honorable Moses Kuria, can we say that he's drifting from UDA? Because remember, that's where the genesis of all this thing started, because we no longer see him, you know, with the deputy president the way he used to see him.
You know, look, during the by-elections in Juja,
yes,
and I think the candidate that Moses Kuria supported, you know, won, you know, but it was a PEP. But... Yeah. You know, he was affiliated to UDA by that time. And I think that is when the rain started beating, you know, the idea with UDA and PEP. There was a convergence of, you know, there was a convergence of interest at that time. But I think they have learned that the DP is hell-bent, that when you want to join his camp, you don't approach that camp with your political party. And I think you could see the push and pull between Moses Kuria and Rigathi Gachagua, who had got a candidate also in the next by-elections.
Yeah.
So I think for them, the notice is, and I'm saying this because according to what we are seeing, and if they stand in their principles,
yes,
then it means that there is a drift on the principles. One, UDA doesn't believe that you can approach them with any political parties, and they're insisting on that.
You come as an individual.
You come as an individual. If you have your party, fold it and join as a member of UDA. The Honorable Moses Kuria and the rest, Mwangi Kiunjuri, and I've said the reason why Mt.Kenya again, that his political party has been very consistent. You know, Mt.Kenya has been there, you know, from 2013, 2017, and she has been running with...
If you want us to negotiate, you know, let's negotiate as a party.
As a party leader,
yes, yes,
as a party leader, who represent, you know, members within that political party. So this is the lesson. And I think we might have forgotten that I am tempted to think, Victor, that in that boardroom, Martha could have lectured them, you know, on their failures before and why they got it wrong. He could have told them, you know, the political blunders that you made is that you once collapsed your political parties, is once that you supported somebody who's not interested in safeguarding political pluralism, and that is why you are here. And for their experience, I think they said, you know, the lady understands, let her lead the process.
Wakili, to any political party, and he's raised a very salient point up to that point, because most of the parties, the 12 of them were folded in 2013, and they joined the Jubilee Party. Some of them disappeared. We don't even know who are some of the MPs or members of parliament or even senators belonging to which party. We all know Jubilee Party. So for you to go and resuscitate a party, then it means you have to go back to the drawing board, go to the political register of political parties, trace the parties and all that, the party acts. It's a lot of work. But what are we learning? And probably Mt.Kenya and Mt.Kenya has stood the test of time, that we are going to negotiate as a party leader, but that Mt.Kenya is going to remain intact. What are some of the lessons that political parties can learn from all of this journey with Mt.Kenya until now? We are hitting 2022 general election, and she's still negotiating as Mt.Kenya.
I think it's all about the philosophy of the development of political parties, which we've had a major problem with in this country, notwithstanding the fact that we even have a Political Parties Act.
What are the policies?
We even have, I mean, a provision where parties are to be funded from the exchequer. I mean, coming up with that sort of an act and with such provisions must have been informed by the fact that there is a need for us to develop strong, independent political parties. Because look at it, as it stands now, I want to believe it's only the ODM party that you can say has stood the test of time. That is right from 2007.
Yes,
so that you see a strong machine that has got networks throughout the country. Of course, Mt.Kenya has been there, I want to believe, from around 2013. It is unfortunate, and I think at times I understand the fears of the likes of Kiunjuri. The last time, or rather, the first time I heard of Kiunjuri, he had some party by the name GNU. And you know, it was interesting because there were these formidable parties around the Mount Kenya region, but somehow Kiunjuri always made it, courtesy of that party. Candidates who felt that nominations were not done properly would ordinarily gravitate towards the party and, actually win in elections. I try to imagine what would have been the position of that party had he not, fallen to the trap of collapsing the party in 2017? Yeah. Because there's a sense in which people had believed in, Kiunjuri and the party, minus the general political picture within the Mount Kenya region. Yeah. So that I want to say that we must inculcate a culture of developing strong political parties which can withstand the test of time. We must avoid this scenario where we have political parties which are more or less briefcase parties, which are peppered around particular individuals. We must crave for a scenario like happens in South Africa, where a president can be removed by the political party, the ANC. Of course, in countries like China, it's all about the political party. And interestingly, that is where Jubilee took their model from. I recall them inviting and, so that it's interesting that sort of a political party might just...
Actually, they also invited the Communist Party of China to...
Exactly. Yeah. And let me tell you, forget about the negativities that may be there about China, but if you study the model of the party, the Communist Party of China, it's interesting and worthy of emulation. And in fact, it is that party that is responsible for the economic revival and the fact that as we speak, China are actually in control of the world economic stratosphere.
Okay, gentlemen, I want us to give probabilities here. From all the front runners of presidential, we have got Mudavadi, that is Gideon Moi, Kalonzo Musyoka, we have got Raila Odinga, Ruto, and let me just put that one. So let's give a probability. Let's start with Mudavadi, Orogo. Mudavadi going for the top seat, and he said that he's going for nothing but that seat. Let's start with Mudavadi. His interest and Mount Kenya. Yeah. In 1 minute.
The probability in terms of
getting a running mate and clinching the seat from Mount Kenya.
Of course, I think Honorable Musalia Mudavadi has been one of the consistent political party leaders that I think I talked about before. Without bias, I think that it's quite important for us as a country that we have a presidential candidate that, one, understands issues, secondly, is able to sober up with issues in this country. And as to why or probability, I think it's hell-bent on Mudavadi to woo and try to reach out to Martha Karua now, because now her wing is most probably the legit wing of central Kenya. Because now, when we talk about Mount Kenya, it's quite, because we even talked about the other eastern Kenya. But for central Kenya, it's quite important that Mudavadi would reach out. And I think he's able to reach out any corner, not only Mount Kenya, but in this region.
Okay.
You asked who else?
Let's go with Mudavadi first with you, Akili.
Mudavadi, let me start by saying that Mudavadi ordinarily is, can I say, the nice guy, a sober leader, a very good grasp of the economy, and no wonder for those who will not, right from, I believe from the Moi days 2002, in one way or another, sitting presidents always have Mudavadi as, the guy who we may just choose if every other thing fails.
Absolutely.
And to believe there's a reason as to why.
Absolutely.
Okay. As to the choice of deputy from Mount Kenya region, of course, given the fact that the mountain ordinarily is fixated first and foremost with the economy, I think they would really see Mudavadi as someone that they could easily work with. But of course, they would want to be convinced that Mudavadi's candidature will be viable, so that we will not give you votes and we end up losing.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's also celebrate. It's his birthday today, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's important to wish him,
yes,
a happy birthday, and
awesome.
And he's been here, and I think he graced the opening of this, and I think it's important to recognize that
happy birthday, Mheshimiwa.
Yes.
Just tell where the party is and drop a pin. That's drop pin. Okay. Let's go to number 2, Gideon Moi. Gideon Moi, we know the history of Gideon Moi. When Mzee Moi was, people thought that he was going to pick somebody else. He went for then, quote unquote, young Uhuru Kenyatta that most people didn't imagine was going to be his choice then. So let's talk of Gideon Moi.
Well, I think he's a sprouting politician, and he has been in One Kenya Alliance as a principal, and it's important that this is a presidential campaigns. It's neither senatorial or governor MP, and we are considering one is your experience, one is your your convincing power, and your perception. I think Honorable Gideon Moi would be a presidential candidate, but not for 2022. It is my belief that his work is doing very good work in terms of branding, the political parties, and bringing on young faces in the political party. And I think also ANC is doing that a lot. But also Gideon Moi is trying as much as to project the face of the party as a party that is reviving the new Kanu that we're talking about.
His appeal on the mountain.
Yes, his appeal on the mountain, I think, is still insignificant, because then he needs to, what Wakili has said again, to convince, that his agenda is that he would want to safeguard the interest of Mount Kenya. But I think something works against him, that he needs to work on. That Mount Kenya has got a perception about the brutal period of his father in the reign. And I think that is one thing that he really needs to work on to break that perception with Mount Kenya.
Wakili, Gideon Moi?
Gideon Moi,
Mr. Nice Guy as well?
Of course, the nice guy also, but from the perspective of most Kenyans, I think Gideon will be the epitome of, what you call a dynasty, given the fact that the father was president for 24 years. Of course, he has the networks and everything. Unfortunate for him, of course, is the fact that, the William Ruto factor in Rift Valley, and the fact that you are talking of someone who is outgoing and name it. On the issue of Mount Kenya, I think like Orogo has indicated, at times history can be good, it could also be bad.
Yes.
So that in as much as it is Gideon's father who was responsible, a great part towards ensuring Uhuru Kenyatta's rise to the national stage and eventual rise to the presidency, I think there is a sense in which Mount Kenya, given their, their connection with the economy, would always not forget that brutal history and what they felt during the 24 years in terms of, clamp down in their businesses, which was only revived by President Mwai Kibaki.
Right.
So I think that would be a challenge to some extent.
Okay.
In as much as, given the fact that it is his dad who gave the baton to Kenyatta, Uhuru, and I believe somehow Uhuru has also played a role in propping up Gideon to the stage where he is now.
Today.
Though as to if it's the right time, I don't know. Because again, you see, I think the conversation would be different if, for example, Uhuru Kenyatta had come out clearly, strongly, and maybe managed to convince the likes of Raila Odinga to support the candidature of Gideon Moi. Then I think it will be a different story, even from within.
Okay. Before you respond, let's just hold that. Kalonzo Musyoka.
Kalonzo Musyoka also apparently always a good guy. I don't know what became of, there's a sense in which, maybe because of his certain moves in 2007, which apparently created a sense of, a sense in which people would not trust him so much. And apparently it affects both sides of the divide. Both the team that he purported to support, which is the PNU, and which would be the wider Mt.Kenya region, and as well as, the part that it is always perceived that, he betrayed, that is the ODM brigade. I think that has really affected Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. In as much as, and I want to say this, he is one of the leaders that I can say is brutally honest.
Yes.
I think he's one person that, one of the leaders that we seriously need to consider if we are serious about, having a leadership that would fight corruption, as it were, by deed. I think that would be Kalonzo Musyoka. Of course, when it comes to the position of deputy president for the Mt.Kenya region, ordinarily, I would have expected, given the proximity between Cumberland and Mt.Kenya region, I would have expected the nexus to come out easy. Of course, why not for some of those issues that I've raised?
Orogo, the exclamation before the statement, the exclamation had...
Which, for Kalonzo?
Yes.
I think Kalonzo has to shed off the baggage of betrayal.
Perhaps that way it came from the watermelon.
The watermelon thing. And I think he's tried so much to shed it off and even take responsibility for it and acknowledge, to make fun of people who make fun of him. But I think it sometimes work against, his posture as a potential presidential candidate. I agree with Wakili that Kenya needs to consider and give him some leeway. But I think it's also important on him to really work hard and go out of his way, out of his, Kamba, constituency, and begin to have a real talk with the people of Central Kenya. I think that would really help him, try to shed off that tag, because even within Oka, people would actually think that he would want to run away with the whole idea. So I think it's important for him to begin to narrow down and talk to people. Posture himself, have a team that is able to work on him and rebrand Kalonzo Musyoka the way Gideon is really working hard to do.
Let's go with Justin Muturi.
Muturi is, what do I say? Well, non-starter. For me, I think Muturi has seniority on his position. But then there is a difference in terms of mobilization for a region. You've seen, the Nchurincheka has tried so much to remarket and rebrand Muturi. But again, he's not able to have that political gravitas to convince, that he's able to mobilize even the eastern, Mt.Kenya region. So I think for him, his negotiation is at a level where he would settle for other positions in that region, but not really like, a flag bearer. One, he's not, Victor, let me tell you something. It's not only a factor of appealing also to Mount Kenya. But, Mount Kenya is also looking at who can you get out of our region and go outside and begin to talk to other people. That is what Jimmy is doing. That is what Wanjigi is doing, because he knows the safe landing is on region. But then how would even your own region believe you if you cannot go out and convince other people in other regions as well?
I'm told we have got like only 4 minutes. Let's go with Muturi, Raila. Start with Muturi.
With Muturi, I would say that this is one of the candidates whose gravitas would have been felt if the initial perception that was there at the time when his candidature was introduced, was sustained. There was that perception that this is an Uhuru Kenyatta project. And let me say that in as much as, people tend to have this, there's this thing that, a president, outgoing president might not have so much power in terms of, determining who will be the next. But let me tell you, there's a sense in which if a sitting president comes out clearly and establishes this is my candidate, then you definitely get that gravitas. And I think it has come out clear that that is not the case in respect of Muturi, so that I really do not see him having so much hold, even from within the context of Mount Kenya, which would then, as it were, enable him to have so much gravitas even outside.
Okay, gentlemen, allow me to stop at that point. We still have got Raila Odinga. We still have
Why are we not discussing him?
Deputy President William Ruto because of time. But in 10 seconds each, let's dissect Raila Odinga.
Yes.
In 10 seconds.
Well, this is what is here. He's fought for democracy in this country. You know, he's seen as the father of multi-party.
Right.
As a change, as a reformist. But then, in that region, I think there were conspiracy theories about him. That one, he is scary in terms of he would not safeguard the interest of the people. The region fears that he would revenge on some issues that happened.
Was that politically, it was politically created?
I think it's politically created, and that is why all these the BBI team, as we were talking about, are really trying so much to rebrand him and retell the story. Because everywhere you think he is in Murang'a, is in Kiambu, a story must always be told about the history of Jaramogi coming down to him, so that perception would be broken. And I think that is the only tag that Honorable Raila Odinga is having in that region, that he has to shed off the tag of being vengeful, and taking care of the interest of the region.
Raila Odinga, Ken.
I think for Raila, I would say that his reform credentials and the role he's played for, to make the country to reach where it is now, that is unquestionable. He has also got some stint in government as a prime minister, where he had the opportunity and indeed demonstrated his capacity in terms of if in an executive position, and we saw the gains that were done by the Grand Coalition government in respect of Mount Kenya. Therefore, I would say this is therefore critical at this time, given that we have two serious candidates. So that the question that is there in the country now is, who amongst the candidates would be in a position to safeguard what I would call the economic gains that have been done by President Uhuru Kenyatta, and at least move the country in a direction, if not close to where Kibaki left it. And I think that's where Raila Odinga now...
The DP. The DP, go for it.
10 seconds, the DP would therefore be the antithesis of Raila Odinga. And that is why we have got two strands in election 2022. Such that, of course, with Raila there is reform. For the DP, of course, you would call it, can I say, something close to zero in terms of the role in the reform movement. And then, of course, secondly, and I think the DP really needs to look at this keenly, in the push for a UDA that has got no room whatsoever for other political parties. There is a sense in which there is a feeling that crops up that, look, this gentleman might just be the guy who may return us to where we were during those days. And I think to the Mount Kenya region, and that's why the leadership, the people might still not see it in the ground, but the leadership who've been there for some time are seeing a red flag. I think it's something which the DP seriously needs to reconsider. It may just be his Achilles heel in 2022.
With the DP, as we close.
A populist and who's gained favor in many regions. And I think that works for him because he's tagged as the deputy president and as a person who had been in the government. The Hasna narrative sweeping with no understanding of what it is, and I think even in central Kenya. But I think the tire is that the caucus that we are talking about would present a serious challenge to his agenda because of the people that are there. And the tag one that he interfered with nominations in 2017, Honorable Kabogo has been in this set and have talked about his nominations being interfered with.
And now he's in the caucus.
And now he's in the caucus. He presents a very strong challenge. Martha Karua said that he would rather work with Raila than work with the DP. And I think she's been very categorical in the public saying this. So I think for him is that his agenda is well cut. The Hasna narrative is sweeping. sweeping, but I think there is a puncture in that central Kenya is slowly being fragmented and is focusing, you know, on other areas. But allow me to say this generally for all political flag bearers. We cannot be talking about presidential candidates who have not understood that young people between the ages of 18 has gained the ID and they're going to vote for the first time. I keep on saying this on record. The tiebreaker would be youth who do not understand about multi-party, youth who do not understand whether your cabinet secretary is 1990s, young people who've not even appreciated history. The only thing that they know is that they need jobs. They need to be employed. So I think this is where the hustler dynamic is sweeping, because the youth are not buying into history. They're not buying into demographics.
There's a disconnect.
There's a disconnect.
Right.
So all presidential candidates who are not going to get this right and who are not going to speak to the 5 million IBC are projecting that are going to vote for the first time would get it wrong on the ballot.
Gentlemen, before we finish, in just 1 minute, Director, please. Ken Wakili, we have this story of you know, the fuel levy and the hue and cry about the wananchi, and you're one of the petitioners. The intention to file a petition in court to compel the government actually to reduce the fuel prices. You're one of the petitioners, right?
Yes, I actually act for the petitioners. The petitioners are a community-based organization based in Orogo. And what they're saying basically, because there is a petition done as a class action lawsuit, generally for all the people of Kenya who are affected by the hike in fuel prices. Part of the orders that we are seeking in court, perhaps most Kenyans may not be aware that there's a sense in which the Commissioner General of the KRA has already done, or rather made a decision recommending the increment of excise duty on fuel products, which ought to be implemented by the 1st of September 2021. Of course, subject to ratification by the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Treasury. So that would then mean that in as much as right now we are crying about the prices in fuel, the same is bound to increase even more after that decision on the 1st of October. So we have moved to court to petition, seeking that the same order by the KRA to be quashed. We are also saying, because there are multiplicity of issues that we would want addressed in that petition, for example, the question of the fuel subsidy fund that was created some times back, and it was meant to cushion Kenyans against such hikes in petroleum product prices. Apparently, as we speak, there is no regulation. There are no regulations. We don't know how the same is being managed. It's not clear what is its role. And yet we are aware that in the last budget, a decision was made and it's being implemented where taxes from the fuel development levy are channeled towards that particular fund, so that we want the requisite organs to come clear and explain to Kenyans, I mean, how does this thing operate? How would Kenyans be cushioned in respect of this? Of course, finally, we have also roped in the National Assembly, which, as we know, keep on crying together with Kenyans, and yet they're the ones who formulate the laws, the taxes that we know are hurting the people of Kenya.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. I think we've completely overrun our time. And we just need to appreciate you for your valid company, and even you, the viewer, for taking your time from 6 when we started this particular program, and this particular point we are closing this show. Gentlemen, Ken Amondi, who is Wakili, here with us, and as well as Daniel Orogo, who is our political analyst. Thank you so much for coming to the show. And you, as a viewer, we do appreciate you. Without you, the show haizi kuwa. That's how we say it. All right, see you tomorrow. My name is Victor Oloo. Have a fantastic morning. Bye-bye.